All right, let's get started. Welcome to the Seek Help podcast. I, you know what, always the bah, 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 bah. I was going to be somebody else today, honestly, but I feel like it would be disrespectful for me to be anybody but Regina King today
Mm.
and send my condolences to her and everything that is going on over there because I could not even imagine uh, how she is feeling about her son, her only son, um, for that to happen. So I am going to be Regina King today and leave it at that. I know it's not a
Um,
fun way to start, but still, I thought it was necessary.
well, to just keep the Regina thing going, I'm going to be Regina Hall because I was actually just talking about the two of them at work. And
I was
yeah, I had to put somebody on Nine Perfect Strangers because she was doing her acting in
her
that show.
best
And
acting.
I needed them to see it. So, Regina Hall,
She deserves her things, and I hope she gets them. Honestly, truly,
yes,
like for that role, she deserves all the things, and I hope she gets them.
somebody's nominations or something
I
because
think she's already started to get nominated, but I don't know. I could be wrong. I hope she gets them now. But we have two special guests with us, as you know what, all the excitement on Kiana's face. I'm going to let them introduce themselves how they see fit. So, girls, be great.
All right. Well, welcome to the listeners, but thank you to the hostess with the mostest, both Reginas today, R squared. I
R
am,
squared, yes.
yeah, I'm Callie. I'm gonna be myself, my fearfully and wonderfully made self. So,
Amen.
um, I am excited to be with the Seek Help podcast, and I am, here for all of what we are able to provide for the people to seek their best help to become the best versions of themselves. Thank you for having me.
That's all we're trying to do here.
thank you for
Well,
joining us. That was great.
good day, everyone. I will also start off by introducing myself as myself. I am Kelsey, and I am happy to be here today. We just want to give kudos to Shelby and Kiana for developing this podcast and this wonderful content. And as my sister Erica said, we just hope that it reaches and touches somebody. And I won't reiterate on that too much because Erica, like always, said it the best. And I
Yes.
will end with this though. So I introduced myself as Kelsey. However, just to round out the Regina, I will say that I am Regina Wilson today in honor of my auntie, Shelby Mama.
I thought
So
about that.
that's who I am on today. Shout out to G.
I
Shout out to
Miss
G.
don't
G.
We
G.
wouldn't be
My
I
here
felt
without
G.
like
her.
that was coming too.
My
I
G.
felt it in my spirit. I felt like after
Well,
all
let
these
me be
Reginas.
Regina Brown then. I'll be my
So,
godmom.
yes, come on,
That
Gigi.
yes,
Come
yes,
on,
yes.
Shout
We
out
just
Gigi.
to
all gonna be
Gigi.
Reginas today. We gonna be
All
all
the
Reginas
Reginas.
today.
We are the Reginas today.
Shout out to my Gigi holding it down.
I that's great. I really have nothing for that. I will. We can tell all the Reginas that they are special and wonderfully and
Well,
fearfully made.
Fearfully and
Um,
wonderfully
fearfully
made.
and wonderfully made. I should have known that that was coming. We can just hop right into for the culture. I'm going to do it a bit differently today because I'm going to ask a kind of for the culture question based on something that I saw because I've been watching uh, Family Matters again,
mm,
essentially. And I was reminded of an episode, like a question that they asked that I thought was a little spicy. Um, Not overly so, but basically to give the scenario, let's say that you have been married for 25 years. Um, you your husband, you knew that your husband was dating someone else when you met them though. So, but that's all you knew basically. Like you knew that you homewrecker isn't the right word, but adjacent. Let's give it Alicia Keys, essentially. Um, and uh, basically, you find out all this time later that the engagement ring that he bought for you, he actually bought for the other woman. How do you feel when you receive this information?
We can all
Throw the
answer
whole
this.
thing away.
Everybody.
What's that new Instagram
What did she
sound?
say?
Don't be shocked. Are you shocked? Don't be shocked. Sis, you knew. Or you knew and you didn't want to know. Like the red flags, whole viral sensation. Those were red flags when you came into the relationship. Perhaps you chose consciously or unconsciously to ignore them. And now what's done in the dark is coming to light. So you either can, get some counseling to help process and bring some clarity. Perhaps there can be some form of reconciliation before we throw it out. Because 25 years, was it love or was it a lie? You know, that's my thought.
And when I said throw it away, I wasn't speaking to the whole relationship. I was just talking to the ring, the physical ring
I
itself.
mean,
just throw it away and replace it, please. That might be shallow, but that was literally like the first thing that popped into my mind. Like, throw it away. Like, what is this? Like, I don't want this. Like, and at this point, at the same time, like now that I think about it, like, well, what is the point? Like, I've been wearing this for 25 years now, and it technically wasn't supposed to be mine, but it is mine. So, like, after 25 years of me wearing this symbol, like, what's the point? Like, would I actually even really be able to throw it away? Because, but at the same time, like, no, it's time for upgrade. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Yeah.
I agree. Upgrade.
I'm kind of on Erica's team though, because like you just said, was it love or was it a lie? Like you spoke right to it. Yeah, this is mine, but I wasn't actually supposed to have it. And the same thing could be said about that man. Yeah, he's yours, but you weren't supposed to have him. And I don't think you can take him to the jewelry store and just go pick out another one after 25 years. So I definitely getting a new ring, whether we throw the relationship away or not, just off the strength and the principle, you getting me a new ring. That's happening for the 25 years of lies, and it's going to be big and it's going to be nice and it's going to be worth enough money that I can pawn it to pay for this divorce. Like, but
And I'm just wondering, like, did that person, let's say this I'm trying to be inclusive, but let's just say this male partner, did he not have any friends? Like, surely, maybe you have a friend and you're saying, hey bro, I'm getting ready to propose to my lady. You think it's okay that I, give her this ring from old shorty, or even not even a bro, but like maybe, some women in your family, maybe you have a sister, maybe you have a
His
cousin,
mama, your
maybe it's
mama, somebody.
maybe it's a lady in the
Yeah.
barbershop that lines brothers up, that even someone should have offered some counsel, some accountability, some support, because I think that it is a teachable moment, or maybe this person was private and they just felt in their hearts of hearts that it was okay to do. But we say it's common sense, but not everybody has that.
Well, let's put it back in terms of family matters. Loved everybody's answers. But let's just bring it back to the show because I'll tell you how it went on there. Because let's keep in mind, Carl was cheap, and that's exactly why he did what he did. Carl, obviously he never actually gave the ring to the other woman, so he just felt like, who cares? Essentially, in his mind, even as she got upset about the situation, like he was still not getting it and not really getting why this would be a problem. It wasn't until Laura broke it down for him, because he was ironing, and she was like, "You only ever iron when something is wrong. Like, so what is going on?" So he tells her what happened, and she's like, "Oh, you gonna die," essentially. Um, but he was like, "I don't get why you women are so sentimental about these things and all this stuff or whatever." And Laura was like, "All right, let me put it to you like this. Do you remember the day that you bought it?" Of course he did. He remembers going into the store, all the things. She's like, "Do you remember how excited you were that you were going to give it to her, all the things or whatever?" He was like, "Whose face were you excited to see when you were going to put that ring, when you bought that ring?" And he was like, "I'm going to be ironing a long time." Like, yes, yes, sir. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Because that is what this is about. You were not getting that. I was never the person that was intended to be behind this particular ring. Um, so I don't know what necessarily stopped him from just going in there and at least getting something done, a different setting, a different like just something done to the ring to change it. But nevertheless, here we are. But I have forgotten about that particular scenario on the show, and I was like, this is a cause for conversation. Let's see how everybody else would feel if something like this were to happen to them. Because
Right, because I mean, it's a these are characters, but this is a real life situation. So
yeah,
yes, Family
the show is
Matters
not the
was
only one.
bringing a real life scenario to the homes of many people that I'm pretty sure aren't far removed from a situation like this.
Mhm.
So we appreciate how sitcoms took real issues and brought it into discussion, and also showing the drastic differences when it comes to male to female thought process. So he was thinking from an economical, probably rational, logical side as much as he
Mhm.
could. And of course, women, we're going to come from a sentimental and emotional place. So that's one thing, the differences of how men and women view things, or materialistic things, or whatever the case is. So I appreciate the substance, even through a comedic TV show, to bring some depth to that this is still a relevant issue,
Right.
and relationships today.
Right. It's just um I mean, and sitcoms very much still do this very thing. That's one of the things that I enjoy. I think that we've all enjoyed most about Blackish over, all 8 seasons essentially. They have always brought to the forefront, especially the issues that we do not particularly care to discuss with white people, especially, that we do not want to have that conversation at work every day. Those particular issues they have brought to the forefront in a way because they know that they are watching, and enjoying, and I hope that they have learned something across these 8 seasons, much like we have ourselves, not just them, but we as a people have learned ourselves. So yeah, that's I agree with the sentiment, Erica. Um Anybody else have anything they want to mention for the culture? Shout out anything in particular? Guess I could say now.
No, y'all talking about sitcoms made me think of This Is Us though, but I didn't want to ruin this past week's episode. All I will say is that I hope
I
that
saw.
Deja girls get their own little spinoff, because that's a show
Mm,
that I would watch wholeheartedly. Like I need to see. I even want Jack and his sister, like they could come too. This is them. I don't know what they're gonna call it, but
this is
This is them.
them.
That's what they're gonna call it.
this is them.
This
That's
is
the
them.
name. Remember, I said it here first. I want my
This
checks.
This
I
is
want my
is
them.
money.
it. I
This is
want my
them.
coins.
Make it extra
Run
ethnic.
me
Make
my
it,
check, NBC, please.
because if Deja's the main character. I already know. Lord, she hit him with, well, that's gonna be a problem.
I was
Lord.
not ready. I was not ready.
Oh, don't do it.
Well, Shelby knows this. I'm ashamed to admit I've never seen an episode of This Is Us. It
I
looks too
was about
heavy.
to say,
I
I'm
can't
in that
do it.
same
I can't
boat
do
of
it.
people. I've
I
never
can't
seen
do that
This
every
Is Us.
week.
It's not every, like, it's really
All emotional.
right. Like, don't do it. It's very much so still, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna enjoy. Like, it's
Once.
not- Bye.
One laugh, Shelby.
Just like that. That's the
Not
laugh.
one
you're gonna
laugh.
get.
You are going to be laughing throughout the seasons. Yes, you're going to shed some tears, but it's just it is it's a feel good show overall. Like, yes, you're going to be triggered by some things, or just see things play out that you might not have wanted to or thought they would actually do on TV. But it's an excellent show. Like, it's just undebatable. It's an excellent show. So
You gotta watch it.
you have to.
Well, I'm
watch
just
it.
I
here
don't
to
doubt
say
it.
that I'm here for Quinta B on primetime now in Abbott Elementary. I mean, I know,
Abbott Elementary
she's
is
come up,
hilarious.
She
So
has
I just
come
want
a
to shout
long
out
way from a
Quinta
large.
B for the culture, doing her thing,
It's
from
the principal
what
for
was it,
me.
BuzzFeed to Black Lady Sketch Show to now Abbott Elementary. Like, I'm loving the progression. It's for the culture.
It's all of them for me. I know that people love their principal as a standout, and I really understand why.
My
But
soror.
I have to get. I mean, isn't Cheryl Lee Ralph your soror too? I
Well,
I have to give Cheryl Lee Ralph her credit as well for being this good Christian woman on this show. Like, she plays it like no other. She comes in ready every week to be like, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away. The Lord, like, she's going to give the lines. I love it. I love it. So it's the whole cast.
let me ask y'all this. If this was Hampton Elementary, we'll just generalize, what would be the sight words that we would be teaching the youth? Like, did y'all see the last
Did y'all see this episode?
when she was up in there?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, yes.
I haven't watched it
She
yet.
opened sight words to the kids that are specific to Philly. So she was like John and Bull and all these sight words. So if we had to choose like Hampton specific words, like what would it be? I don't know. Yak is a good one. Yak is a good one.
Okay, it's 3 letters. That's a sight word. My mama was a reading teacher, so these sight words, she don't play about them. Renee does not play about her sight
Renee. Words. Continuing with the R's. Shout out to Renee.
Look at that. I definitely think Yak would be one of them, though.
Yak has to be one. That's a great
John, which I think was up there.
Yes.
What else for Newport News and Hampton, though?
I don't know, like words.
Like specific words that are ours.
Racist, like, because C would need to be on the board.
Overtown would need to be over there too, on there, because people don't realize the difference between downtown and Overtown. But that's a whole other thing.
I don't know what Overtown is. What?
Overtown is over where the shipyard is. You got to go over the bridge to get there.
I thought that was.
And then downtown is just like downtown.
I thought that was downtown. Because you got to go over the bridge to Overtown.
Yeah. Like, that's what my parents called it. That's what we called it growing up. When we lived downtown off Wickham, like that's just what you called it. It was a distinction.
I wasn't going.
This just
I wasn't
became
going Overtown. I wasn't going
over
over there.
This just became a Newport News site. So, because
it is, because I'm a Newport News
Hampton,
person.
I never
I'm not a
called
Hampton
that Overtown. I never called that Overtown either. So I can't confirm or deny. I've never heard Regina or Tommy say Overtown either. That doesn't mean that they don't, by all means. But I have never heard that term.
Put it on the board.
Put it on the board. Overtown.
On the board.
On the board.
Once
I
them
thought-
streets get numbered, baby, that's downtown. All of that downtown.
Yes, that's
Yeah, because
all
like
of that.
downtown is where like the church is, and then overtime is where the
Yes.
shipyard is. Like it's two distinct, different sides of the city. Like
I hear what
can't
you're
even
saying.
describe it for
I
real.
absolutely hear what you're saying, and I
Yeah.
understand it. I just
Never heard of such.
Never heard of such. Don't know her. Like truly
Don't know that girl.
her.
Never been there.
Don't know that girl. Never been there.
And I think okay, I'm gonna do one more thing before y'all wrap up for the culture. All right, so I think since it is Sunday, it's Sunday night, and you know what Sunday night is. They say this is a big rich town. I just think we need to come together in prayer for Ezekiel Cross, so somebody can get this man some common sense, because he is about the dumbest character I've ever seen nor heard on a TV show in my entire life. So that's my for the culture.
Wait until you see this week's episode, because I watched it.
I haven't watched it. You already watched it already?
I watched it last night. Just know
I gotta watch it.
It's undoubtedly the best episode of the season.
Okay.
And
I've never seen
it's-
Power.
Oh, tragic, Erica.
She just
I'm not watching this ghost powered book situation.
I
I've seen
know you
Power,
haven't
but I'm not
seen it.
watching this. But I know
this
what
is
happened.
good.
This
This
is
one is really
unfortunate.
good.
Yes,
About it.
Ghost is excellent. Like
It's really good.
like Ghost is excellent.
Like
I
really
haven't
almost
watched
better
it.
than the regular Power. Like it's
I'm
really
sure.
getting to that
Low-key,
point.
The way
Yeah.
the timeline talks about it every week,
Yes.
it has Twitter in a chokehold. So I know what's happening. I just don't
But yeah,
know
post Zeke.
because I ain't watched it.
Zeke needs some help.
Just
Zeke
wait.
needs some help.
You'll understand why he needs some help after this episode. You'll understand. It's deeper than you think it is, child. It's a lot.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I'm sure
I'm
it
just
is.
gonna say Diane chooses violence, and that is what's going to happen. Diane chooses violence, and I was here for it, quite frankly. He
Okay.
deserves.
Okay. All right. Well, I will watch it after this.
Yes. But also, while we're on the subject of Power, I'm going to put up prayer hands for Tariq St. Patrick as well, because he needs
Oh,
it
he needed to.
for court.
He needed to.
And
Oh yeah, he is about to go to trial.
he
He needs that
it.
too. He needs
He
it
needs
too.
prayer.
He needs it too.
He needs prayer. Smart guy, but
Yeah, real
prayer.
smart guy.
Brilliant guy.
Real smart guy. I just want everybody to stop lying to Zeke though. Like that's my thing. Like whole thing, yeah, he needs some common sense, but people his auntie just lying to him, and he trusts Auntie Monet so much.
We'll see. Diane chooses violence.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you. You'll see. You shall see. So yes, we will let that wrap up for the culture. We will dive into this seek help section of the show. I am going to let Callie take the lead on this particular conversation, and we will go from there.
All right. Well, thank you, Regina, for the segue and for bringing this conversation that really struck some tense emotions for me, and I know I'm not the only one that has these emotions. So thank you for taking our dinner conversation and bringing it to the masses, and whoever hears this hopefully can get behind the movement, because this is starting to be a movement, and the movement I'm referring to is the movement of canceling student debt. It is a crisis that has long been an issue for many of us here in the United States of America. Can only speak to the US of A. And it really started to concern me around the December 20th era, week, where Biden was, getting ready to, or had the decision to pause or continue student loan repayments. And we were kind of waiting in the wing of, are we going to repay them, or are they going to be paused? Are they going to be paused, or do we repay them? And I just remember just starting to feel anxiety because that week I started getting phone calls, I started getting emails, I started getting letters in the mail about, hey, are you ready to start back up your payment plan? Do you know which
And
plan you
the
want to
answer
opt
was no.
for? Do you know that your servicer is changing? So you no longer have Navient, you're going to have something else. And I just remember like anxiety coming back. And so I just remember again this sense of anxiety about the wait, like watching like, Joe, what are you going to do? Like, are you really going to leave us out here like this, Joe? And I just remember feeling so upset because shout out to Senator Elizabeth Warren, because she really holds it down in this regard of saying that with one stroke of his pen, President Biden can cancel student loan debts. And then so we were at the dinner table and I was saying like, yo, before we had gotten to the dinner table, I said, this is a public health threat. This is truly, causing some mental health angst amongst a lot of, I'll just, from my context, millennials. And so it was on December 22nd exactly that our president, Joseph Robinette Biden, made the decision to, yes, full government. Okay, listen, when I get mad, it's giving the whole name.
I'm
So
screaming.
he made the decision to extend the pause on student loan repayment an additional 90 days, taking us into May. So this initial act of student loan payments, being in suspension happened under President number 45. And he, put
No
this,
names for him.
no names. I'm not, no matter how angry, 45, right? So that suspension began with him. Congress passed the CARES Act, which temporarily suspended the payments of federal student loans. Thank you. Appreciate it. We were in a whole panoramic, and the economy was suffering. People were losing their jobs, pay hours being reduced. And so we appreciate that there was some bipartisan effort to go ahead and pause those loans. So he suspended it twice. And so that's when it carried over into this current administration. And so I give it to him on his first day. He did, our 46th president, Joseph Robinette Biden, continued to keep the freeze, the pause on our student loans. But to me, how long do we have to just kind of wait in limbo of, are they going to be paused next time? Or are we going to have to repay? Are they going to be paused? And to me, that's where the anxiety comes up. And COVID really just seemed to expose the numerous areas of disparities in our infrastructure. And COVID not only, showed us things that were going wrong in the world, but it showed the impact that it has. And I'm to bring it in a little bit more narrow, African Americans. We saw the impact of COVID on us health wise. Mental health started to increase. We started to see racial injustices increase. And now here we have this economic disparity with student loans. So that's when I was really starting to really see that, wow, it could really happen where we have to go back and paying, for some people, $600+ in student loans a month. And that's not, to say that people who have the income driven, people who are with the organization for loan forgiveness, but think about the people who don't have that option because they have no income to base off any type of repayment. So then it starts to increase anxiety, and we know that sometimes financial debt can really start to trigger people's anxiety, people's depression. And that's why I'm saying that there's a health disparity as it relates to African Americans, because I do want to bring in some policy here, because that is kind of my shift in area of study as a social worker at the Howard University. And so according though to the Center for Law and Social Policy, their article that this is about the psychological toll of student debt. And they really explain how this mental health crisis has increased during the pandemic. And then you add the stress and now the burden of student loans. I think we were already going through it before student loans. So now it's compound trauma, stress, grief. So there's a quote in the article. It says higher education is supposed to improve quality of life, granting access to high quality jobs that provide greater stability, higher earnings, and critical benefits like healthcare and paid leave. However, comma, the financial and psychological toll of student loan debt leaves many wondering if the degree was even worth it.
Worth it.
My God.
Erica, we read the same exact article. I just got to say that because listen.
My God.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
Because
Go
it's
ahead.
not.
So this next part right here, and this is where raise your hand if you feel personally victimized by student loans, aka Sallie Mae, Navient, however many times she want to change her name. We are all personal victims, and I can only speak from my context, my demographic of I'm a young African American woman, unpartnered, and I come from a working middle class family. I have had to, over the past 3 or 4 years, work at least 3 jobs to maintain a mortgage, a car note, health insurance, other insurances that you need, life insurance, car insurance, the list goes on. So I really enjoyed and was grateful for the relief. But here's where this is my final quote from that article. Black borrowers in particular are most likely to feel the long-term stress of student debt while reaping the fewest rewards. While the majority of white students owe less than their original amount borrowed 4 years after graduation, 48% of Black students owe 12.5% more than the original loan amount after the same time frame, and hold 186% more debt than their white counterparts, even 15 years after graduation. This is the issue. This is the part that just it really concerns me, because and that's why I'm saying this is a public health threat, because now we're focusing on a specific targeted group. Is infecting us economically. When you look at our head of housing and urban development, my soror, Marcia Fudge, who said that already student loans are impacting, you know, people of color economically. It's going to be harder for us to purchase a home, to give back to the economy through investments of, being able to purchase a home, because our debt to income ratio is just unfair. And so that's why I'm saying this is a public health threat. This is a mental health crisis, and we need more policies. We need more options than income driven and student loan forgiveness. There needs to be something more, because this is an issue specifically, I'm saying, for the Black community.
All right. Now, while my sister Erica has come with all the policy, I am an epidemiologist by education and by trade. And so I am a numbers person. So she gave some statistics, but I want to give a few more, because the data scientist in me at heart, in me, I like to see the numbers. I like to hear the numbers. And to me, the numbers really is what shows the true burden of what is going on with this crisis in our country. All right, so student loan debt is the second highest consumer debt category behind mortgage debt, and it's higher than both credit cards and auto loan debt. So all these people out here swiping credit cards, doing all, buying all these lavish things. Student loan debt is more than all of that combined, essentially. Over 45 million borrowers in this country owe collectively over $1.7 trillion in student loan debt in this country. That's a whole lot of zeros. That's a whole lot of numbers, and it's just obscene. That's an obscene amount of money. It's crazy to me. All right, I'm gonna give you a little bit more, and then I'll move on to my next point. So 58% of all student loan debt belongs to women. So women are paid less. It's harder for us to get jobs and great careers, but we hold the most student loan debt in this country. Huge disparity there. Why is that? Let's talk about that.
Educated.
We are the most educated, okay? Black college students are most likely to use federal student loans at 49.4%. And 30%, I think this was one of the most kind of like profound, statistic within, like the disparity realm for me when I read this. 30% of Black college graduates with student loans default within the first 12 years of repayment. So 30% of our Black brothers and sisters cannot pay their student loans. And then really kind of going into it, I know Erica spoke to the mental health aspect of it, but just to really just hone in on the burden of student loan debt and the mental health crisis just in general, again, 1 in 14 borrowers have experienced some form of suicidal ideation in response to the financial stress of these student loans. And even though those who are able to make their regularly scheduled monthly payments, a lot of them make critical sacrifices in order to do those things. Like Erica said, she's been working 3 jobs just to try to make her student loan payments and to keep herself afloat with her mortgage and insurances and things like that. And so there's so much of a sacrifice that millennials have to make to pay off these student loans. We're sacrificing things like, delaying home ownership, delaying starting a family because we're trying to get our financial situation in order before we bring children into this world. And a lot of times people stay in unfulfilling or unsatisfactory positions because they're afraid to leave the job that they do have and afraid that they won't find another job in order so they can continue to pay their student loans. And so it's just this continuous vicious cycle. And in response to the Biden administration, thank you, Erica, for letting me know his full name, because all I know is we did it, Joe. That's all I know. The Biden administration has already canceled $9.5 billion in student loan debt for those who are permanently disabled and those who were defrauded by for-profit institutions. So $9.5 billion of this student loan debt just has already just disappeared in the thin air, disappeared. So what's wrong with the rest of it? We've been pulling money out the sky. The United States, we just pulling money out the sky, stimulus here, stimulus there. And while we're, grateful and thankful for that, we're doing all this, and there's over $1 trillion, close to $2 trillion in student debt that's just not going anywhere. And nobody's trying to do anything about it. And that's the most frustrating thing of it all.
I just want to jump in to one, say, Joe, you ain't never getting that money back from me, bro. You can hang it up. It's never gonna happen. Call your people. I don't care. You're not getting these coins.
I want Kelsey to say her favorite line for this right before. I hate to interrupt you, but I want Kelsey to say, I would say it, but it belongs to Kelsey. I want Kelsey to say it, and then you can continue.
Okay, so what I've been saying is, and I say all of this, and I am, essentially, very privileged in being in the fact that my parents were able to fund my undergraduate college career. So I was thankful and blessed not to have any undergraduate student debt. However, I do have student debt for my graduate degree. And I just say that just to show the different levels of debt that people are in. So there's, of course, the person that has undergraduate debt, grad school debt, and then sometimes a doctorate degree debt versus, other people who, had the means or, not even had the means, but were able to have their undergraduate education funded. But I say all of that just to say what Shelby paused for me to say is that what I've been saying every time I log in on my phone to view my student loan, my federal student loan, because I am in the federal student loan repayment plan, because I do qualify for that, and I'm thankful for that. But I'm also have some reservations about that, because I've seen and read some articles about that program that are very unsavory. And I'm just like, how is this supposed to work? And I pay my payments on every month on time, and other individuals have been doing that as well. And then when it comes time for their loans to be forgiven, the government is like, what you talking about?
Nah.
I don't know what you talking about. Nah, go ahead somewhere, keep paying. So that's, a fear and anxiety of mine. But what I say every time I log into my federal student loan account, I say, I have forgiven my student loan, and my student loan has forgiven me. And that's it. Because that's what it is. I'm gonna keep paying because I don't want to default and I don't want it to mess up my credit, but I'm paying the very bare minimum that the government allows me to pay, because I also feel like they don't need this extra money. But y'all not missing this money. They printing money. Like I said, we pulling money out of the sky. They're not missing this money. So yeah, my student loan is forgiven, and my student loan has forgiven me.
Period. And when we talk about money coming out of the sky, this is the thing that just kills me about student loans. So we have an individual, we have an institution. The person says, I want to attend. The government says, here, school, here's some money. Where did that money come from? At that point, this money was created. Not a dollar was printed. We ain't take no money out of circulation. The government just said, okay, so now we know we owe school university $20,000 because this person said they wanted to go there. And in 30 years, this person is going to pay us back this $20,000. And school university accepts that and says, yeah, it's cool. Like, y'all are, it's for me, for student loans, I'm like, there's nothing to erase because this isn't real money. Y'all are literally giving people access to things based on promises that you can't guarantee. You don't know if me as a freshman is going to make it to sophomore year. I could get hit by a bus. Any of the things could happen. But these people have still accepted this money as if it's real and they know it's going to get paid back. And that's why my student loans are forgiven and all of that. Like, what? But to speak to Erica's point, this is the thing that I think is missed when we consider policy. More than any of this being political, it is a racial issue. And at the end of the day, I think both of y'all have spoken to all of the different points that, again, we all know the Black woman is the least valued person in this country. All of the ways that is evident, because we are the most educated. We're the ones basically keeping these school universities in business because we are the most educated, but we're also the most underpaid. So where is the benefit to me as a Black woman to continue to go to school outside of my own moral code that says I need to have more to give to my community, to my society? I need to be better. I need to learn more. I need to be able to offer things. And the only way it's going to be respected is if I go through these channels. So I do what y'all tell me to do for y'all to be like, no, take your little 73 cents on the dollar, girl. Like, we don't care, because Johnny Smith with a high school diploma could come in and y'all still gonna pay him more than me because I bought into this dream that y'all told me that if I do these things, I'm going to get this better quality of life and I'm going to have access and I'm going to be able to get all of these things. So we're already stressed from the moment that we go into school because we have all this pressure and we have all this expectation based on what we've been told. So then you do what you're supposed to do. You graduate. Most people either return to school. So now we're taking out more loans. Most people become teachers. Let me not say most, but people take the channels that, again, you're told, oh, after 10 years, your loans are forgiven. So go work for the government. Go give back and do these particular things so that we can erase this debt that never existed. And I think, excuse me, that is why, and I've seen other people share this take, like that is why we can't move the needle on student loans. Because at the end of the day, the economic advantage that Black people will gain from student loan, they can't risk it. They can't risk it. They literally have us in imaginary shackles. Like, shout out to Kanye, slavery is a choice. What? But on some level, yes, because we chose to, if you want to say it's a choice, you have to ignore everything that's saying these are the only choices you have, but we're not going to go there. Because again, what am I going to do? Go to college, go to the military? Still a slave either way. Like, y'all are telling me that these are the only, we don't push entrepreneurship. We don't push trade schools. We don't push those things. We have been told, at least I, from a very young age, go to school. If you don't go to school, especially where we're from, you go into the military. Those are the options that you have. So it's like, what's better, the devil you know or the one that you don't? But at the end of the day, they're never going to forgive those student like, just because of that. They know the economic, I don't even, like, obviously that's not my arena of choice, but it's obvious that if y'all forgave student loan, the economic like expansion that would occur damn near immediately, we would be out at the Montclair store, baby. We are running up a check. You just freed up 30% of my monthly income. Like, so yes, we are going to go and stimulate the economy. I'm about to go buy a house. I'm about to go have 17 kids. I'm doing all of the things that I could not do because of this. And it's like, all of these people that we put our public trust in, we can sit here and say, oh, birth rates are declining. Houses are sitting unbought. People can't afford to live in apartments. All of these things that could be solved literally by us just taking this and being like, okay, guys, our bad. No child left behind. Y'all went to school and still got left. Like, let's just wipe that to the side. There's a reason why that will not be the solution to all of these other problems. And I just personally believe that it is completely racial based. And to bring in, like we did earlier with the George Floyd and all of that, the speed in which they passed that Stop Asian Hate bill told me everything I needed to know about America, baby, because y'all got that one up, agreed to, signed, printed, stroke of a pen. But we've been out here arguing about the same stuff for so long. For what? Student loans aside, like literally just as Black people saying, hey, y'all do realize we're still arguing about this critical race theory. Like, just to prove to people.
Don't even get me started on critical race theory, Kiana.
That doesn't exist. Like,
Girl,
not in
it does not. It's nothing.
It does.
It's a political talking point to bring people to the polls and get people like just fired up about
they are racist.
Absolutely
like,
nothing.
That's essentially what it is.
But that exactly, Shelby. Exactly that.
And
that's
macro
it's a
aggression.
true.
It's macro aggression in its best form, unfortunately. And if y'all want to keep us in bondage, then just say that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't.
It's institutionalized slavery.
A Virginian, and for those who don't know, the first place the slaves pulled up was Fort Monroe, Virginia, baby. So I'm trying to figure out how you can have me less than 15 miles from the place that this country literally started, have no issue with putting me on a bus to go blow glass in Jamestown, but to sit here and say to people look like me was out here plucking these fields, and that's too much. Like, it just, this country hates Black people.
Amazing.
That's the moral of the story. They not doing nothing that puts us at any advantage. And at the end of the day, they know that if they forgive that financial burden, we still have our education, we still have our network, we still have all of the things that you're supposed to gain from college, the same way that white people do. And they can leverage those networks and enter different spaces and go live in New York and, and don't have to worry about these sorts of stress. They have that opportunity that we don't. So once they eliminate that financial burden, now we're on a much more even playing field. And what they've known since the beginning of the time, we better than y'all. So now y'all sitting here getting showed up because we are still the most educated. We are still going to be the ones walking in the boardrooms and all of these things, doing what needs to be done, improving ourselves, and even more so with much more ease, because I'm not going home thinking about all of my student loan debt or feeling like the only reason why I'm here at work right now is because, not Navient, because they didn't turn into somebody else now. Sally Mae gonna send me an email on the 13th saying, ma'am, your student loan payment is due. Like, all of that. That's why they don't play Black people the same. That's all of it's to keep us in this bondage. In my opinion, it's just a different way of slavery. And that's why Joe ain't getting his money back from me.
It is
Joe Byron.
institutionalized slavery. Sorry to this man.
I mean,
What do you want to
yeah.
tell Joe
But yeah.
Byron right now?
Send me
I
a
can't say
stimmy. They
what I
don't want
wanna
us to
tell
build.
Joe Byron right now, but yes, send me a stimmy because I am very unstimulated and I would like to be stimulated. I deserve
Stimulated.
to be stimulated much more than what we have been during this panorama, as everybody has stated, essentially. But this racial disparity, as she was already speaking on, is just it's ridiculous. And they do know that exactly what she said, that this is all about us not being able to be at an even playing field because they know that if we do that, we taking over. And
So
it's
right.
not
That was my thing. They don't
going
want
to
us to be able to build generational
Yes.
wealth because of that, because they know and they see the power behind us, and they know and see just how much we can do as a community when Black people come together, how we can support each other's businesses, how we can get things done, how we can get policies passed. They see that power and it's a threat to them. And I still don't
Exactly.
understand to this day how the white man could come to this country, well, go to Africa, gather people up, like make them slaves, bring them away from their homeland to another foreign land, make them work and build a whole country for free. And then when we are free, they're scared of us. Y'all the ones that enslaved us. But now it's reversed, and you are so afraid of what we can do and the power of our minds and the power that is within us, or the power that we have. Like, it's crazy to me, like how we came from being the victim to like being a threat to these people. How did that happen? How does that happen?
Because the reality is that they were always scared of us. That's why they did so much to destroy our minds at the time. They literally strategically made sure that our bodies were strong and our minds were weak. That is how they got us to where we were in the first place. So they've always been scared. Because now that they know that we still have these strong bodies and now our minds are stronger, that they don't know what to do with us. And they try, I just feel like America tries to give the defense of, well, look at the Constitution. Quite frankly, my people were 3/5 of the people when the Constitution was made. So while y'all try to tell me that it was made for me, it was never made for me, baby. It was never made for anybody in my family, and that's unfortunate. But I just so please don't throw the Constitution in anybody's face because it was not made for us. The same
No,
way
and we're
none
not
of
even
these
going
like,
right. We're not even going to get into the whole issue of the 13th Amendment and how the first thing that pops into most people's mind is that it abolished slavery, but then they don't realize just how much more enslavement has come from the 13th Amendment because of the whole right to punish and enslave people for crimes. The 13th Amendment did that.
exactly.
And see, to that point, Kelsey, I think is why we have to continue to teach in our communities the history, the financial literacy, and regardless of the injustices that we have seen taken out on our communities, we have to continue to fight back. We have to continue to speak up. We have to continue to vote. And quite frankly, we have the power to do so, but we are now kind of faced with voter apathy, where because we feel like we've been failed by public leaders in public office, we won't go and continue to vote when it truly does matter who we elect, i.e. just look at Virginia and who has been elected to govern our great Commonwealth. It matters who we vote
82
for,
points.
who takes into account the policies that will continue to not only impact us, but our future generations. So that's why I think we have to now step up and do more. We have to be the ones that are running for office. Quite frankly, we have to be the ones, now we have to kind of take these marching orders. So now that, like, we've had this conversation, like, what is our responsibility to take the dialogue further? And, I mean, even further than our Twitter rants and threads and shares and reposts. Like, what can we actively do? I mean, we see what we can do when we come together in large numbers. We see we've seen what's happened in Louisville, Kentucky, with the policy for Breonna Taylor. So there is power in numbers, but if we continue to stay divided and continue to be individualized, which is part of what was stripped from us when we came from our communal, tribes, we have to get back to understanding the power that we still hold. So I feel like, now at the end of the day, we've had this conversation and we know that there's microaggression. We know that there's institutionalized racism and modern day slavery happening right before us. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do for the generations now that are coming behind us, for Jordan, for Jalen, for your children, Kiana, like for Ian and the generation after him, for Landon, Brendan, and Cameron? Like, they're going to be the ones impacted by the policies that we advocate for, that we vote people in for. And so I feel like we have to do a little bit more. We've gotten a little comfortable, and it's sometimes, I think when our people, our party gets into office, we kind of sometimes sit back and be like, oh, like we're good now. No, that means we got to work. We got to work even harder, because we can't always suspect that the people that we voted for are always going to vote in our favor. So it now comes with a lot of education and doing a little bit more, to really impact and affect change.
Yeah,
I just
Erica, you
want to
said
jump
it.
in here. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say one point about what Erica mentioned, financial literacy. I think that's really one of the most important things. And I feel like that's something that needs to be taught in schools. I think even just the difference in generations, I feel like my brother, like, he's 6 years older than me. So we were, several classes apart as far as in school and everything like that. I believe he took a class, like he had like one of one of those senior classes, like, I don't know, intro to life or something like that. Who knows what it's called? But like, you learn how to like balance a checkbook. You learn how to do like life skills and how to take care of yourself. I didn't have that.
Nobody.
Like, my parents taught me how to do that, but that's because they knew how to do that. Not everybody's parents and family
No,
members
right,
around them know
right.
how to do that and know how to manage money, and know how to manage what you have effectively. And so I really do think financial literacy is one of the most important things. We really need to be advocating for that to be in our schools. And if it's not in our schools, how can we get this into our community centers, our boys and girls clubs, somebody to come in and teach our kids, our boys and girls, what credit is, what your credit report does, like how that is attached to you forever. As soon as you get your social security number, your credit report is attached to you. And not just what your credit report means for buying big purchases like a home or auto, they run your credit when you're trying to get a cell phone. Like, it's that,
Listen,
like,
and if we can't
those
even
are the
talk
things that keep
about
holding us behind.
exactly where are these payday loan places. They're in urban settings, they're in Black and brown communities, who is targeted by credit card companies, mostly young people. But I'm pretty sure there's a statistic, I don't have it, but I'm pretty sure there's a target against Black women, Black people, that, hey, get this credit card, right? I remember working in the hospital, and I was down in the emergency room, and one of the ER techs, young girl in her 20s, was telling me how she had just gotten a credit card and her limit was 250,000, or 200,000. Like, she had a very extremely high limit, and so she was like, I've already spent $10,000, and I was like, girl, on what? So
Don't do that.
again, you have this young person in her 20s, like early 20s, like just turned 20. And when you think like, oh, like I can afforded this, like I qualify for this. And I was like, girl, you need to get them to lower that limit, because that's a setup. But again, like you said, if we don't have people to teach that in the communities, in the homes, then yeah, if you go to Victoria's Secrets, if you go to your favorite department store, would you like to open up such and such to save like 15% on this purchase? And then I mean, from
Yeah.
as those types of, you know, things that we need to also educate our young people on, the next generation. So there's again, like, the education is widespread when it comes to this disparity, like you said,
Mhm.
closing the wealth gap, the racial gap, all the gaps need to be closed in 22. There needs when we're
There needs
talking
to
about
be, yeah.
equity is making sure that we all have a fair starting point, and that's something that we're going to have to continue to advocate for.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think to speak to the point of like the community, because again, I mean, even with this critical race theory, I don't see us going to the school board and being like, people need to learn how to spend money. And they're gonna be like, okay. I remember going to a community center when I was in high school to learn how to write a checkbook, balance sheet. That was the first time I'd ever written a check in my life. Like, there's so many things that I wouldn't know had I not worked at a bank, and just different things like that.
Same.
So again, it's like we get this education, and then, like Callie said, it's our responsibility to then go and figure out the best way to share that with the masses. We have sororities, we have fraternities, we have all of these groups. Even besides that, people are creating their own like groups and societies. I saw one like 757 professional women or something like that. Like, if your company is in credit repair, that is your charge. You need to be figuring out how you could get your information in front of not even just children, but also adults who are underprivileged and may not have, to Kelsey's point, maybe their parents never knew how to balance a checkbook. Like, from that point, you're already behind because we're sending you out in the world saying, here's your job. You don't know how to budget. You don't know how to spend your money. People read what is it, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and like think that it's more than that. Like, you can read the books and you can do what you can individually do, but at the end of the day, that still isn't giving you the hacks, that sort of your debt to income ratio and those sorts of like nuances that you need to know to be able to do certain things. I see this a lot where people do it with like business credit and things of that nature, but some people don't even know how to start a business. I don't know how to file an LLC with the state. Like, I don't know how to do these things. And so I'm already looking at this mountain that you're telling me is going to change my life. And I'm like, it's too high. I'm never going to be able to climb that. I'm already so behind. And so I think that that's really our responsibility, is to go out and share whatever knowledge we have, to use our talents to get with other people. If I know someone in finance and I'm more marketing, let me market this for you. Like, you don't need to be trying to figure out how to do that. You need to be figuring out how to get the most important information in a way that these people can understand it. Let me design the flyers. Like, you don't need to be worrying about those things. But you know again, these are all just my opinions, of course, but I see it now, especially with like social media. We get so caught up in the way things look. People want credit. People want to be the only, like, we cannot get ahead with a me mentality. Like, I can't advance my people only worrying about how I look good. You know what I'm saying? And what brings benefit to me or may set me up to do something, because I'm not just trying to set me up. I'm trying to set us up. I'm trying to set y'all up. I'm trying to help y'all have the opportunities and the access that I didn't have, help y'all not make the same mistakes that I did. And I think it's just so important to have these types of conversations, because we individualize everything. On the flip side of that, like, oh, this will make me look good, so what can I do to make myself look better? So now you're sitting here working 3 jobs to pay bills, and you're thinking that that's a you problem. Like, that's an inadequacy from you. I'm not working hard enough. I can't get these types of jobs. And you're ignoring all of the things like that have you there, that have nothing to do with you, like nothing to do with you. So I also think it's really important, which, I mean, shameless plug for therapy, but you have to be able to talk to someone and have it acknowledged that, like, I could be working my behind off and I'm still going to hit that, for lack of better terms, black ceiling. I'm only going to be able to do certain things. for things that are completely out of my control. And I know I have just found that realization to be liberating, because it's like, I can do everything I can. I can get all the education I want. I could be the smartest person in the room. I'm still going to have people who disrespect me because I'm a Black woman. I'm still going to have people who don't trust what I'm saying because I'm a Black woman. I have people who are going to doubt me. These are things I can't change because I can't take this off. Like, I can't do anything about that. I can do everything I can to make sure that I'm prepared and overqualified, and still have people deny me, not because I'm not prepared and overqualified, but because they're threatened. That has nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? But enough of those instances, you're going to be like, forget it. Like, forget it. Let me stay where I'm at, take what I can get, because this is all I can have, because you think it's a you thing. And it's not. Like, it's not. There's so much structural, systemic stuff at play here that really, again, enslaves us mentally. And that is the point. Like, for us to keep getting denied and to keep having such a hard barrier of entry to opportunities and access and wealth, that we stop trying to get it. And much like Callie said, we can't. Like, we cannot. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our ancestors. We owe it to the people that came before and after us to do whatever we can to continue to fight against it. And nobody wants that burden. But again, we Black. It's the one we got it's the one we got when we were up, in heaven, looking like, that looks like a good set of parents. That's the one. We should have picked the other side, but we didn't. Like, this is the burden we got. And that's just what comes with it. I'm sure other people have other things. People are disabled. People have different things that they have to overcome. But unfortunately, in America, being Black is one of the, that's one of the worst. Like, that's one of the worst things that you have to overcome. Like, and I really don't even mean to sound dramatic when I say this, but I would truly put it up there with disability in terms of, like, access and how the world bends to help you have an equitable quality of life with people who don't have these same issues. Like, we don't have wheelchair ramps, and some buildings don't have what they need so that everyone can experience that the same way. When you are born Black, that's a default. Like, you are not going to be able to experience life the same way as a vast majority of people. So I don't know. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, but I didn't ask to be born Black, and I just want some money. I want my mules. I want my acres, because I didn't ask for none of this. I didn't.
And I want to pay back 3/5 of my student loan, because that's what they said we were. So I'm only paying 3/5 of my payment from now on.
I need 300/5 for all my other people that they can get their 3/5. If you add them all up, we at 23rd, 15th.
I mean,
I want
3/5
my money.
Like,
no. I mean, and honestly, to speak to Kiana's point, we have to. The other side of getting ahead, honestly, we as Black people have to stop thinking that everything is a scam as well, as far as, like, the things that could benefit us. Like, honestly, people hear the word insurance and they automatically think scam. And to a degree, I understand why, because things like our auto insurances, aren't really doing much for us, even when we are paying our monthly bill for that. If we pay the deductible, we still end up being like, this costs how much? $2,000. But it's like, I understand.
Don't even get me started on health insurance in this country, Shelby. You know me and my soapbox on the state of our healthcare system.
I get why people hear the word insurance and think scam, but they have to stop putting that with every type of insurance.
Do you know the reason why Black people, like, if we're talking data and facts, are killed more often by the police? It's because we don't have life insurance. It's because we don't have life insurance. There is no company somewhere that is, being taken from when we are murdered, whether by ourselves or by police. And then to make matters worse, the police don't got to go back and pay nobody, because no one, like, because we don't have life insurance. Like, we're not putting a value on our life, so no one else does. Hospitals aren't worried about Black women maternal rates. Like, no one, because who cares? You ain't got no life insurance, girl. You die.
See, listen, y'all. Listen,
But that
Y'all
is
about to have me
it.
on a whole soapbox about Black women going into a hospital and not getting the appropriate treatment that we
Heart
need. And
attacks.
it's 2022. There should be no reason why educated Black women have a higher infant mortality rate than our uneducated white counterparts. There should be no
We're
Less
not
than
reason.
high
setting
school
These are
educated,
precedents.
like eighth
educated, yes,
grade. Eighth.
educated Black
Oh,
women have higher infant mortality rates. So if I go into the hospital and I'm in labor, my baby has a higher chance of not making it than someone, like you said, Kiana, a white woman who ain't even finished high school, who doesn't have a GED. Why? It's 2022. And that's the most frustrating part, I think, for me. And I feel like it is for everybody. Like, it's 2022. We've been fighting these same fights since the beginning of time. And it's like, when is it going to end? When is it going to end? But at the same time, we may need to change our mindset too. We might need to start speaking stuff
It's
into
both.
existence. We might need to start doing that. We might need to start saying, no, I am going to leave generational wealth for my family. No, I am going to be successful. My children will be educated. My children are going to be successful. We are going to break this racial barrier. We are going to build this wealth like every other person in this country can. Sorry, but yes, thank you. Like Keon said, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So, but
You
yeah.
know what? But that's exactly what I'm getting at. That is the point I am making, is that we all have to get out of this mindset that everything is out to get us. Like, they don't teach us, unfortunately, that life insurance is something that we need both to build this generational wealth, but also in the situations that exactly y'all just talked about with being in the hospital. Because at least, even if you didn't have, the best health insurance in the world, if you had the life insurance, if something is going on, to that critical of a degree that you need to, be able to pay these hospital bills or do whatever, these life insurance benefits that we have, which is why I tell people you need to get the best one that you can afford, because it's not just in death, it is in life. You can use it for that purpose, but a lot of people don't even realize that. A lot of people
That's a
don't
mindset thing. Like you
anything.
said, we really have to, and that's where you come in with your expertise, Shelby, in teaching that I'm not preying on you, because historically, as a
yeah.
community of Black people,
Right.
we have been preyed upon when people come in the same name of insurance or trying to protect. Don't you want to protect your loved ones when you leave?
Mm-hmm.
What about while I'm still here? So I think that's where you
Mm-hmm.
come in, and being able to teach and say, hey, I know that you may have this mindset that this is scam, but I want to do everything to make you feel comfortable, to not allow you to feel pressured, to go with the highest, like you said, go with what you can afford. And that's going to take time, like much like everything else, because we now have to be patient and realize that historically, on every front, from going into a hospital and having mistrust, going into institutions and having mistrust. So it's the same, because we have historically been preyed on from every side imaginable. So I'm excited for your journey that you will be a part of. um, Someone in our generation who's going to help educate other people in our generation about how to set their families up. And I just hope that, you'll be able to journey and help them kind of be able to be released from that thought that is someone's out to take all of your money. So I think that's where you're going to come in and do more teaching. Maybe you'll be the one that goes into churches. Maybe you'll be the one to, like you said, use your podcast as a platform, use your Instagram as a platform to help educate people, to help kind of break these shackles that everything's a scam.
And I mean, it is a combination of that and us as a people not being afraid to have these conversations about um, what life insurance does, because that's the other part of it. People aren't talking about life insurance and things like that because they are afraid to talk about their deaths. And I
Mm-hmm.
get that to a degree, like I really do. As a person who doesn't like to think about their own death, like I get that, but the reality is, that's what I tell people every time I go into a meeting. The reality is that this is not a conversation of if, this is a conversation of when. We are
When
all going to transition on. And you have to you have to be prepared. We all love to think that we have all the time in the world, but we simply do not. And that is one I know a lot of people get reserved about even trying to buy policies for their kids and stuff because they assume that that speaks to them trying to assume that something could happen to them as a child that they will, pass on in some way. But what they're missing is that that type of thing gets passed on to the not even just the ones that we buy for ourselves, but the ones that we buy for them. That's what they can use going forward. We get a really good
right,
policy for them at a young age, which obviously is the cheapest that it'll ever be for them. They get to continue to pay for that and add, whatever policies, because that's the thing. Have multiple policies if you can afford it. Don't, don't limit yourself in that regard because especially when you have the universal life and the whole life policies, you are able to borrow from yourself anyways,
right.
as time goes on. So you are, instead of having to essentially get yourself involved in the scams of the banks, and everything else, pulling from your credit lines, doing whatever you do, you borrow from yourself. If you don't pay it back, well, that just lessens the benefit a bit from, whatever you got instead of somebody else having to further be put in debt based off of what you borrowed for whatever you borrowed it for. It could be for a very good reason, but that's what people don't realize. When we go away, our debts do not disappear. Somebody
Hmm.
has to keep doing what we've been doing, at least to a degree, until we can get it set up. If you have a house, somebody's going to keep paying on the house until it gets sold, do whatever. These things have to be done. And we don't like to have the conversations, but we need to be having the conversations with our parents. That's why I loved what Insecure did this past season and the conversations that Molly was having with her parents, because you need to know what you're being left with, and you need to know what essentially they have in place if something were to happen, because if they even wills and things like that, we need to start setting those up. People don't like, same reason people don't like to pay for insurance or talk about life insurance is the same reason people don't like to talk about wills. We don't like to talk about our own deaths, and I get that. But if you don't talk about it now, then when it happens, we get left with foolishness. Because as well, really all three of us, me, Kiana, and Kelsey, as far as all of us having worked at a bank before, we've seen the side that it looks like when the deaths happen and people are unprepared. It's not pretty. Like, people think that they can just walk in with a death certificate and be like, okay, I'm gonna get this money. No, actually, that's not how this works. If there was no will in place, then you need to go to court and figure out if you are the actual executor of the estate. You need to bring that paperwork in. If they don't have much to that they're leaving to you or doing whatever, then you at least need to come in with a small affidavit saying that you are the person that does. But nobody knows these things. Nobody talks about it. They don't talk about it because they don't know, unless they're living it, as we all have at some point in our lives. So that speaks to exactly what Kiana was saying, as far as I wouldn't know these things if I hadn't worked at a bank, because there are a lot of things that I wouldn't know if I had not worked there. But this is why we need to do a better job of spreading this type of information, and making people realize that not everything is a scam. Even though there are plenty of things working against us, there could be things working for us if we would take advantage of those things. And that's the language that we need. We need to do a better job of balancing that act, essentially, and getting ourselves set up. Because even to speak to the fact that, somebody said something about, uh, I guess, to speak to the credit thing and people not knowing, not fully realizing how these things have to get paid back and all that, what I thought about is when it comes to these student loans and the refunds that people get back with their student loans, and they see that and they're like, oh, I'm finna go buy whatever. Like, they don't realize that just because you're getting this refund from this loan, that's still a part of your like, you still gonna have to pay that back if you use it. So you might as well give it right back to them, honestly. If you don't need it for something, if you just going to use it to, I don't know, go to Ruth's Chris, you don't need to be doing that money. Like, you need to be giving that right back to them, because you're going to have to pay it back. If you don't actually need it, don't look at, because I know Vernon has talked about that in the past in his sermons, because he used to get his refund and be like, finna get these new Jordans, I'm finna do whatever, like, not realize it. Nobody told him that he was going to have to pay that money back once it was used or whatever. They just thought free money. And that's the problem. We need to stop seeing those types of things as free money, and realize that really nothing is free in this country. And that, thank you for coming to my TED Talk as well. I'll stick to that.
I think from there, I mean, I think we're in a good place to kind of wrap up. Because I know I have two final thoughts on this conversation, and those are gaslighting and gatekeeping. And
Okay.
this is what I was getting at the first time when we think about our elected officials. And I just want to acknowledge that we all have been collectively gaslit. We all, well, let me not say all, but a vast majority of us voted for someone who ran on the premise of getting rid of student loans. Like, this was one of his main campaign promises. And the man acts like he never said that. Like, that is what gaslighting is. Like, he acts like he never said, in my first 90 days in office, I'm gonna do. Sir, we going on a year, Joe, 2 years, Joe. It's been a while. Like, you're gaslighting us, sir. And we don't even got to get into that. But again, the prevailing notion is that we're not going to go out and vote, and it doesn't matter anyway, or that our vote is already secured for them in 2024. So who cares? And it's just like, we care, because you still haven't done what you said you were going to do for us. I wish we lived in other countries. I talk about this all the time. France, some of these other countries be about that action, baby. You said you was gonna do this. We in the streets, we marching, we at your door, bing bong, like, we are here. I wish we did that in America. But again, we know that that's not gonna work out too well for us if we go and do that. So we have to find different ways to mobilize. And within that, gatekeeping, we can no longer gatekeep the information that we have. As a collective, I know everybody wants to put it in a course, in an ebook, and sell it to people. There are people who need the information that you have, and they need it for free. They need it without cost.
Yes,
I understand.
Yes, I agree with that.
That it was hard and difficult, and ain't nobody paid for your books, and you were out here getting it out the mud by yourself. I get that. I respect that. Love the hustle.
But that's a way of paying it forward, though, Kiana. That's how you pay it forward.
There are still people who need the information in a way that only you can give it. Like, they need that from you. Don't make them suffer because you had to suffer. Like, we have to stop gatekeeping. If we have the information, we need to share it. If we see someone entering, just maybe I don't know what I'm gonna do when I die. I don't want to set up a GoFundMe. Oh, boop. I know my girl Shelby, she got life insurance. Oh, you're getting married? Let me direct you to my friend Calli, because we want Black families to stay together. Like, I'm invested in your success, whatever that is, regardless of whether or not it also makes me more successful. Because I am, because you are. I don't have to see that immediate benefit. Maybe it's not for another 15 years, and you wrote me into your will because I was the first person. You know what I'm saying? You don't know.
Right.
You don't know how things come back to you, and you shouldn't
need
to know how something is going to come back to you to be a good person.
That's it.
That is true. That's it.
It doesn't matter. Do it, because Jesus loves you. So you got to love it. Like, whatever you need to tell yourself to rationalize it, that is your burden and your charge. That's all of our burden and our charge even more so because we're people of color.
Well, I definitely want to piggyback off of what you shared about um, being creative and finding different ways to mobilize. We all don't have to run for office. We all don't have to um, run for an elected, title. Because there are ways for us to still be involved in our communities to again invoke change. So whether that is something that you decide to do some grassroots work, when you find a organization within your community that is doing the work and they need more, um, hands in the streets, to get out information. Shameless plug to Virginia Block is a non-bipartisan nonprofit to educate people on how to understand, um, you know, just voter education, policy, and advocating. So, like you said, there are different ways to mobilize. Be creative and find out what that is. You don't have to be a preacher, teacher, doctor, lawyer to impact change. You can do it as creatively as you can using the resources that you have. And I hope that we as a people will do that instead of sitting behind our computer, sitting behind and having thumb wars and rants and really get out here and be like, I can make a change. So I'm going to advocate. I'm going to knock on some doors and do some community organizing. I'm going to use, if you have a business, you're going to have some pro bono services. You're going to partner with some neighborhoods who have resource centers where their residents can come in and use your services for free. So I think there are all ways that many of us can use what we have and still go out there and make a positive change, regardless of degrees we have, letters in front or behind our names. We can all be a part of grassroots efforts to advocate.
Yeah.
All of the above.
Right.
Yeah, y'all said it very, very well.
I was about to say. Um, the only thing I'm gonna add is very petty, but I want to speak to our governor, Glenn Youngkin, because that's why I
Mr.
said the
82
82
points.
points. Yes,
Mr.
because
82 points.
I want to speak on a missed petty campaign opportunity for the other candidate, because they could have talked about how this man, because we did some research, Kiana. The three of us, we did some research on our governor, and we found out uh he is apparently 6'7", which I didn't know that. So he played basketball in college, and across 4 seasons, he managed. And whoever put this in this bio, great gowns to them, beautiful gowns, because across 4 seasons, he managed to score 82 points and get 67 rebounds across four whole seasons. So somebody in a campaign could have seen that in the bio and said, if this is how he manages his basketball, how do we expect him to manage the state? I just want somebody could have used that. Somebody could have found a way to factor that into their campaign. And somebody that would have caused us to look the same way we did and be like, this is real. He really did. Like we could have figured this out. Somebody could have put that in their campaign, because I would have, not that I looked at him that favorably in the first place, but I feel like even as a Caucasian, I would have looked at him a bit differently and been like, this is for, because everybody loves basketball. Everybody, like, you 6'7" and this is all you can do.
That's
Like,
you 6'7", and that's all you
that's all
managed
you
to
can
do.
do.
What a waste. Okay, like
A
how many
waste.
years, how many seasons can he waste, Virginia? I could see, girl.
Somebody
They
missed
should have
their
called me
opportunity.
because they did.
But we can, if together we can put it together the next time he tries to run, because we know he's going to try to run again. So together we could do it. um I just wanted to point that out. Somebody missed that opportunity to really let that play in everybody's ear, because quite frankly, I looked at him differently once again after I found out the information. So I know I can't be the only one that did such a thing. But I just want to thank our guest for coming in and joining us today. Thank you for everything you added to the conversation and everything that you are doing to try to make the changes that we all want to see, essentially. We are
Yeah,
all
thanks
trying
for
to.
inviting us.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we hope you enjoyed yourselves. We are going to let this wrap up the Seek Help podcast for this week. And everybody join us for Seek Help Sundays later on. Every 2 weeks.
Before we go,
something to
like,
add.
comment, subscribe, leave us a review on Apple Music. I think that's it.
On
Wait, subscribe to
YouTube,
my
all the
channel.
things.
Right. I don't know what the girls
Yeah,
say.
subscribe to my channel. Subscribe as
Subscribe.
Terrell. That's what Terrell says. Subscribe.
Follow us on Instagram at Seek Help Pod. And yeah,
All the things.
talk to us. We here
We here.
making change, taking names.
You know what? And we're out on that note.